Om Namo Bhagavate Ramakrishna. Om. Salutations to Bhagavan Ramakrishna. Durga Charan Nag. Nag Mahashay. We've seen his remarkable life and how he had a tremendous compassion for not only truth, but for people, for everything around. He was an expert doctor also. He had given up his medical practice when he heard Sri Ramakrishna says that lawyers and doctors cannot realize God. It's difficult for them. That's not. So once a relative of his old employers, whom he used to work in Calcutta, was stricken with smallpox. And that time it was a kind of a fell disease. There was hardly any choice. But it was a one-way ticket. And all the other doctors who were consulted couldn't do anything. So they requested Nag Mahashay to do something about him. He agreed because of his great affection for his employer, as well as the employers were really considerate about his needs all through his life. So Nag Mahashay examined the patient and prescribed some homeopathy medicines which cured the disease. Now the employer wanted to reward him with a huge sum of money, and he just was unwilling to accept it. And when they kept on pressing, he says, "Oh Lord, why did you make me learn this low profession of a physician? It is only for this that I have to undergo such sufferings." And looking at him, they said, okay. So one time, his employees had invited him to a place not very far away from Calcutta, but in those days, of course, it was difficult to travel. So he had gone there, and for his return, they gave him a ticket, money for the ticket to board a steamer that would take him to Calcutta. And he came to the railway, to the ferry, you can say. In those days we say ghat, ferry ghat, the wharf. And he saw a poor woman with a few children, some in her arms, some clutching at her. She was in a bad shape. She was poor, she was weeping, and her children were weeping. And she saw Nag Mahashay and told him her sad story. And Nag Mahashay, he himself burst into tears. And so they had given him 8 rupees, that is like, take it as $8 in those days, of course. And a blanket to protect him from the cold, because it was winter. He gave the $8 and as well as a blanket to the woman. He's saying, "Mother," saying, "take these and save yourself and your children." The woman was stunned. She blessed him and she went away. Now, he never calculated how he's going to return. It was so spontaneous that he gave his money and everything away. And then he was tired, he rested, and then he started his journey back to Calcutta in those days. And it took him 29 days on foot. The small streams he used to cross by swimming. So this was, and not for a moment did he grumble. So why was I so stupid or something like that. And we would have said, why would I have bothered? Another time something like this had happened. He had sold off some of the consignment that was assigned to him in the marketplace, and he had got a few little money, not much. And then again, there was another person who came and said, he begged of him, please, I'm out of money and out of help and everything, and please help me. So there he was, he gave all his money. And he came back with an empty pocket. His compassion was not only for human beings. As we have seen during his profession as a doctor, he used to go out of his way to help patients, to alleviate their suffering, pain. And this was actually how he was led to Sri Ramakrishna. Why is there such suffering in this world? And he wanted to lessen it. And is there a God? Why should things happen like this? His love went out to animals, birds, fishes even. Any bird, animal making loud noises or something, he could intuitively understand that they are in pain or they are hungry or something like that, and he was always there. So one time, the incident goes, they had a small tank. So a fisherman had caught some fish, and as was the rule there, a part of the catch goes to the owner of the tank, and the rest is taken away by the fisherman. And when he came to offer his share of the fish, Mahashay saw the fish struggling, gasping for breath. What he did was, he paid that fisherman the money for his share, took all that fish and threw them back in the pot. And this happened a couple of times. So he was, he had that kind of, feeling that all this is life and somehow I have to protect it. Snakes, whenever snakes used to come, and he used to say, why are you here? One snake, one cobra had entered into his own house when he was in the native place called Devbog. And he said, why are you here? You are the manifestation of the goddess Manasa. Go back to your forest. And the snake comes, and then it sees Nag Mahashay, it becomes docile, and Nag Mahashay leads it outdoors and into the forest, and the snake just naturally it goes. So this was how he behaved towards all living beings. Now, we have him going to the very extreme of trying to... The one time another water snake came and bit him on his toe, and his wife was kind of agitated, saying, no, it's not poisonous. It's not. The poor snake thought maybe my toe was food, and he bit it. So why you have to blame? So when he was questioned, why? Why do you do all this? And he had a habit of standing with folded hands. There were two reasons. One is, somehow he later says that when I fold my hands like this, I feel comfortable. When I leave them loose down by my side, I suffer from pain. So this is the most comfortable position for my hands to be. And he used to always be like this, with joined hands, to everybody. So people used to say, crazy, look at it, going around with this, saluting everybody. But there was another reason, saying it became impossible to even tear a leaf from a tree. And then he says, the author here who interacted with him very closely, the author was a disciple of Swami Vivekananda. He saw his chosen ideal. He saw God in all beings. That is why he was always in this, very humble. He was worshipping his God in all beings. Now, this is a tremendous statement. People say, bhakti leads you to kind of, not the highest state, but this is the highest state where you reach there and then you see that same consciousness in all beings, pervading all beings. That was the reason for his love and compassion to everything and everybody around. As I said, he could not even break a leaf. He could see the tree as living. So when we see a tree, we see it as, it's a tree. We are not blind, we're a tree. But suppose you are a botanist or something like that, and you start studying the tree, then the more you study trees, the more you figure out this tree is living. And after some time, the knowledge of its life and how it's manifest grows, and so your perception of the tree is different from my perception. My perception is just a tree. So these saints, they go to that level where they see the tree as living, as conscious, and it is difficult for them to even be the slightest destructive. He says, it was the same God breathing in the plant. And this, he says, even the minutest insects, creatures, flies and mosquitoes, ants even, he never harmed them. And if an ant happens to crawl over the body, he very carefully lifted it and placed it outside. And he was so careful while even walking outside, so that he may not inadvertently step on something and kill it. So this was there. And when he used to see anybody killing, he himself used to weep, as if that pain was being felt by him. Now, this part, you see, he was a worshipper of Shakti, the Divine Mother. And yet he had veneration for all types of paths within Hinduism, as well as he also bowed down in the presence of temples, mosques, and churches even. So he had that large-heartedness. And as he was trained by Sri Ramakrishna, his guru, that as many faiths, so many paths. So regarding spiritual practices, he says, yeah, you've got to think that you got to work hard, and then remember that it's God who gives you the results of that sadhana, that spiritual practices. And you've got to be alert when the fruit drops. Sitting under the tree, like the Kalpataru. There are some souls, he's saying, who get the results even without practicing severe austerities or severe spiritual disciplines. These, he says, are the souls that have become perfected through grace. How do you escape the miseries of the world? People used to ask him, saying, why? The only way is to take God's name, contemplate on Him, and that is the. Now, he had also, as he was a serious practitioner of spiritual disciplines, he had attained perfection there. He had many occult powers, psychic powers, not occult, nothing, but spiritual, you can say, powers. And he was very aware of it. He never used it for any other purpose. He never used it actually. One time, however, a young child of a neighbor who had been struck with cholera, and the doctors had given up all hope, his mother brought him and laid him down near Mahashay's door. And Mahashay opened the door and he saw the child. The mother left the child and she left. He saw the child and, well, the boy was cured. And when asked, he's saying, it's true that the boy was cured, but he would not say how. So he had used that time his powers. This was done only to save life. Yes, this is one of those things that he had. Also, you can say, whenever devotees used to come and any doubts used to rise in their mind about spirituality, about God, etc., he used to take that very topic up and dispel the doubts. So he had that insight. He could see in the hearts of people. He used to always say, a pure soul intuitively knows everything. For as a pure crystal catches the reflection of objects around it, so does the pure mind comprehend the things of the world in their entirety. This is what he's saying. So he could understand things, not piecemeal like us, to the very heart of this. There was another incident where a devotee had come from far, and he used to suffer from terrible colic pain. And when on the way, he got an attack of the colic, and he was laid down. Somehow he reached Mahashay's house, and strangely, in the presence of Mahashay, he stayed for 3 days. He and the author of this book, life, for 3 days in Mahashay's house, and never suffered anything. And forever that colic pain had disappeared from his life. And he says, if only I would have clung to him from that time, saying this fatal disease of mine, which was the effect of some misdeeds in my previous lives, wore off under the influence of this Mahashay. So this was Ashwini, name Ashwini devotee. Now, again, we see from the external standpoint, this person had a very erratic behavior. So once in the village, and you know, in those villages then, they had straw roofs, and mainly straw roofs, and even mud and straw built walls. So neighbor's house got fire, and the fire was raging, and people were trying to extinguish it, and they were all worried so that embers will not fly. And so everybody is trying to douse the fire, and Nag Mahashay, he was clapping his hands and dancing. His wife, obviously, she starts taking all the household things, no? Quilts and clothes, etc., and taking them out, saying, "You have no faith at all. You don't have any faith." And he says, the God of fire himself has come here near you, and you should celebrate. She was practical. No. So what a great fool and a skeptic you are still. He's telling his wife, what you do with all these trifles? And then after that he's saying, it's like a kind of, it's miraculous. The embers are flying in all directions. One spark would have fallen on his roof and everything would have been finished, burned to ashes, and nothing happened. So he's saying, that is how he was saying. Another time, once in every 50 years, there's a very auspicious eclipse. Ardodhaya, it's called. So, and during this time, people go to the Ganges to bathe, to have a holy dip. So he was in Calcutta a few days earlier, and he returned, and his father was alive, saying, what a stupid fool. People go to the river Ganges to bathe at this auspicious time, and you're living so on the bank of the Ganges, and you came away. So he didn't say anything. He kept quiet. And his father was railing against him, and then finally he kept quiet. Then on the exact time of the eclipse, he was indoors, and there was a big hue and cry outside in the courtyard. Then what happened? Saying people saw from the ground, suddenly a gush of water coming out. And he came out saying, see, this is the Ganga. I never had to go to the Ganga. She came here. And he prostrated in front of the stream, the gush of water. And everybody, the whole village comes, and they were bathing, and people got cured of their maladies, not only physical, mental maladies also. So this was miraculous. And then after 2 hours, the water disappeared as it has appeared. And so when the book was written, saying there are still people still living who vouchsafe the authenticity of this. They unanimously bear testimony to this fact. So the Ganges water, so it's a vast distance. She appeared there. And he was saying, Ganga Mai ki Jai, and Ganga Mai, and everybody was a great celebration. Swami Vivekananda, when he heard it, he said, there is nothing impossible to the will of such great saints. Men may attain perfect salvation to the effective force of their strong will. So it's not just an ordinary will anymore, because their will has been joined to the will of God. So what they will, they say in the literature on devotion, they say, first the devotee chases God, and God is running away, as it were. And the more he or she run, chase behind God, call on God, the more distant God seems. And the next stage of bhakti is when God chases the bhakta, the devotee, and gives him this and that, whatever it is. So this is, Nag Mahashay, this is the stage where God himself will follow the dictates of Nag Mahashay. And here he says, but in everything he saw the benign aspect of Sri Ramakrishna's, you can say, presence. So there was another thing. He never took the attitude of a teacher. Never. He says that none can teach others. In due time, the spiritual eye opens by itself through the grace of Sri Ramakrishna, and then wherever the eye lights upon, manifests there Sri Krishna. That's a quotation. So it's a third eye. The third eye opens. So his third eye, the eye of wisdom, was opened. And that's the reason why he's saying who am I to teach? God is the teacher. He had a tremendous faith in Sri Ramakrishna, saying, when you have acquired faith in Ramakrishna, know that this is your last birth. If a man has true and sincere faith in the Lord, he never swerves from the path and attains dharma, artha, kama, and moksha, final liberation. So we know how Girish Ghosh used to say that, when the great mother Mahamaya, she tried to bind Swami Vivekananda, he started expanding. And the more she went to get some extra coil of rope to tie him, the more he expanded, till she got disgusted and she couldn't bind him, and she threw the coil. So they were free. And when she bought that coil of rope to tie Nag Mahashay, he became smaller. He contracted himself. He became smaller. And then she tied him even tighter. And as she tied him, he became even smaller. And then it was loose all the. And then she tightened even further. And again, he became smaller and smaller and smaller. Till she also got disgusted. She said, no, this guy cannot be caught. Now, towards the end, here we have this, his last days. I've skipped up a lot of, you can say, incidents. He was aware. He's saying, he tells his wife, my prarabdha, that is the karma that has fructified as a body, is almost come to an end. A little more has to be worked out. So he was, towards the end, he had become ill, and he used to lie down on the porch outside. He had an attack of colic. He had colic. He used to have that colic pain. And this time it was terrible. So Latu Maharaj, Swami Adbhutananda, had sent this author, Swami Vivekananda's disciple, you better go and stay with Nag Mahasaya and serve him. Because this author, Sharat Chandra Chakravarti, he had to speak on some Vedas. He's saying, that is a living Veda there. That is Nag Mahasaya. Go and serve him. And he used to then read the scriptures, Upanishads, Bhagavad Gita, and the Puranas, etc. Bhagavatam. And he used to read, and he found him to be constantly in the deep states of samadhi. That is Nag Mahasaya. And when he used to come down from the samadhi, he saw those 8 expressions of sattva, the sattvika bhav, ashta sattvika, 8. From that you can know that he had reached the very crest of bhakti. So these are the expressions. He also, for example, like horripilation, you can say tears, and all these are the things. And at times he used to get into samadhi and come out and say, he used to say, Satchidananda, Satchidananda, Akhanda Chaitanya, so absolute consciousness. So he used to experience that Brahman also. So here he had finally the aspects of bhakti and the aspects of jnana had become merged. So this is also, they say, another higher state where bhakti, he is attaining those states of bhakti at the same time, he has the highest jnana. So here he then, the people who came to see him, they said, why is he suffering so bad? pain. His body is racked with pain. We see the body racked with pain, but his mind is full of bliss. So they should say, God should be a little kind and this and during his illnesses, people used to come and say, my God, see how he's suffering. So he used to intuit their mind. He used to say how gracious God is. And then he's saying, never, boy, never for a moment be doubtful about the boundless mercy of God. So those who used to see him suffering in pain and all, they say, oh my God, look at that. But Nagmasha's experience was this, that saying he himself never doubted the boundless mercy of God. And he used to see, and he used to say, God is so compassionate. And see how far removed he was from us. We have a slight headache and we call it 20 gods. Oh God, this please cure my headache. So before he finally passed away, he had a great desire to worship Kali. And so all arrangements were made and the date was fixed, but it was impossible for him to get up from his bed, a few mattresses were kept on the porch outside. It was winter and he was not willing to be moved from there. He used to suffer that winter. I tell you, he has broken all records. All saintly records have been broken by him. So we just can't put him and say, this was the reason why he did nothing. And so the image of the goddess was brought, saying before the worship could begin. And so he could view it. And so he says, and that made him very happy. So here he says that as soon as he saw the figure of the Divine Mother, he lost external consciousness and merged in samadhi with the words mother, mother, ma, ma on his lips. And when it took a long time for his mind to come down. And in the states of samadhi, pulse and everything is stopped. And his wife and everybody thought, now he's already dead, seeing the image of Kali. So he's saying, was he dead? And his wife started bewailing. And then it was like, no, okay, if he dies, then you cannot worship the mother, Yeah. And so Shardananda happened to be there. So he had come. He's saying, don't worry. He's saying, he'll soon come down from that state, because Swami Shardananda himself was an expert in samadhi. And then later on, his mind descended down and to the olive, and then he was weeping through devotion, mother, blissful mother, blissful mother. Then the worship was done, and so of course he allowed it to happen, the worship. You have to give a kind of a anumodana, that is the permission to do this worship. So he did. And so then the worship was over, and then he says, they thought now mother will cure him from everything. But it was different. He's saying, the Divine Mother has been pleased to come here not to save this cage of flesh and bone, but to protect you all from dangers and difficulties. Mother has come to shower her blessings. So this is one of the reasons why, they say that when you go for a puja, go for a sale, you go and the goddess is awakened. And what does she do? Yeah. She protects all her devotees. So this is what he say. And then he used to say, may the Divine Mother Kali shower her choicest blessings on you. And then he used to say also, I was a fool when I came to Sri Ramakrishna. And Sri Ramakrishna knew I was a good-for-nothing fellow. Yet out of his sheer love, he showered his grace on me. And then he used to keep on saying, Jai Sri Ramakrishna, Jai Sri Ramakrishna. Now, during this time, there was a period, a few minutes of kind of bewilderment that he was saying, save me, and he was kind of rattling some nonsense. And then he became lucid again. And Sri Ramakrishna, Swami Vivekananda, who heard about this incident later on, he says, you see, he was a Jivan Mukta, that is, one who is living free. Don't judge a person only from outside. You don't know what's passing inside. He was in full consciousness within. Then he says, having assumed a human form, if there be no human frailties, then he cannot be said to be an embodied being. Such weaknesses have been noticed in many other sages. It does not matter, he said. So here it was. So Swami Vivekananda himself confirmed that he was free while yet living. And this is the highest ideal of Vedanta, to be living free and see that same God pervading everything. So 3 days before his final departure, as they say, he asked this author, read the almanac. And this we find in Swami Vivekananda's life, in Ramakrishna's life, in many other disciples' life. They say they used to call it, read the almanac, and they used to read the almanac, and they say, okay, stop. And they used to go on that very day, which that reading had been stopped there. So here he says, he tells it, what's the best time for me to depart? He's saying, depart? Where? Going? Where is he going in this state of health? And then he read, and then he's saying, then he says, he said, at 10 o'clock on 13th of Paush. Paush is like, the time of the end of winter. And, okay, you see. So he said, if you permit me, I shall start on that day. And then he got that day. The next day, he says, Sri Ramakrishna has come, Sri Ramakrishna has come. And he says, and you are so happy. And then he says, Sri Ramakrishna wants to take me and show me all the places of pilgrimage. And then here he is telling that Sharat Chandra Chakravarti, the author, tell me the names of the pilgrimage centers. Sri Ramakrishna will take me there. So he had recently been to Haridwar. So in his spiritual body, Sri Ramakrishna takes him and shows him that sacred place, Haridwar, where the Ganges enters the plains. That's a very holy place. And he's delighted, Haridwar, there comes down the Mother Ganga from the Himalayas. And then he sees the trees, the banks, and this and everything through his spiritual vision. And then saying, I have not bathed yet, it's 20 years, let me take a plunge in the sacred waters. And then there he is praising the river, the goddess, and he plunges into samadhi. And then the Sharat Chandra, he says, Prayag, that is what is called Allahabad now. It was Allahabad, now it's Prayag. And he goes there. And the next he goes there and he sees the entire confluence of the Ganga and the Yamuna. And he's praising all these places and saying, oh, I have not seen that ancient hermitage of the sage Bharatwaj, one of the great sages in ancient India, very ancient India. So, and he sees all the places, all the hermitages. Then he finally sees, oh, there it is, that hermitage. And then he takes a dip there in that confluence, which is, and there then he has a vision of Rama, and he's saying, oh Rama, hail, Jai Rama, Jai Rama, Jai Rama. And he sees the mother, divine mother also there. Then Benares. Now what is fascinating is, he is going to all these places Sri Ramakrishna is taking him in his spiritual body, and yet he is listening to the words of the devotee here, taking, okay, Benares, and the Benares hears Benares, and so his mind had attained to that state called Vibhu, that's all pervasiveness. When the mind has stopped being individual anymore, it becomes universal, and he goes to, then his spirit goes to Benares, and then he says, Hara Hara Bom Bom, and he says, this time I will be dissolved in the great Lord. And then next he hears about Jagannath Puri. Now these places, they are scattered far and wide. So Jagannath Puri is in Orissa, at the tip, you can say the eastern tip of Orissa. He goes and sees, there is Jagannath Puri, the temple, see the deity, and he goes through the temple, and there's, he's saying, the Ananda Bazaar where prasadam can be held. And so he was being in that high spiritual mood. Towards the end, when it was almost 10 o'clock, when he said, at 8 o'clock, it was 2 hours before he passed away, Sharat Chandra Chakravarti began uttering the name of Sri Ramakrishna. And then he kept a picture of Sri Ramakrishna close to him, saying, this is the picture of your master, in whose name you have renounced everything. Mahashay looked at the picture, saluted with folded hands, and uttered with a feeble voice, grace, grace, grace. Out of thine own boundless mercy, grace, grace. But these were the last words he uttered. 1 hour before he passed away, saying his lips began to quiver as if he was muttering to himself something. Half an hour passed that way, and then his eyes became fixed on the tip of the nose. The hair stood on the ends, and tears of divine love were seen in the corners of his eyes. So these are the signs of yoga. It's not this. These are the signs of yoga. And this has been mentioned in the scriptures. That's the way to leave your body. Then he said that take the prana up here to between the center of the eyebrows, pull it with the power of yoga, and then taking the name of the Lord, leave your body through the 1,000-petal lotus in the head. And the hair stood on the tears, divine love, tears of divine love. 5 to 10 minutes passed that way. His body, everything had become still. And he entered into the great samadhi, from where you don't come out. The other samadhi is where you go in and come out. This time, he just... So, at the instance of his wife, he was laid on a lounge outside, covered with a nice clean bed. So, the body was still warm, in the sense of the body is warm. In the case, like in the case of Sri Ramakrishna, he had given up the body, but there was a little heat down the spinal column, and to revive the body, ghee was massaged from the nape of the neck down to the tailbone, so that the body will start kind of showing signs. The mind can come down. In this case, slowly ebbed away. The heat finally left away. So the people said, even then we need to be cautious. We wait for 12 hours. Otherwise, generally it is just immediately. The present, the Hari Om Ram Krishna. So he passed away that way, in the high states of samadhi. So all his life, he never wanted anyone to photograph him. Hey, why me? This is the cage of flesh and bones. Why do you want to? So now he is not going to object. So somehow a photograph was taken of him, and in those days, and a painter was commissioned to paint it. So that's the only picture we have, a painting of him from the old photographs. So that was. So the cremation was done, and Sharadananda, he came in there, and he told him whatever the other smaller details to be taken care of. And since he had worshipped the goddess Kali, so that image was, kept there with ashes. So this was how Nag Mahashay lived. She passed away at 10 a.m. Yeah, of course. But he was 54. And he lived till 1900. So 1864 he was born. So 1900. This was the end of such an amazing life that the world has yet to know of this life. Many people, they kind of dismiss him as a kind of madman. But this was a divine madness. And he showed us the very perfection of every form of human sentiments, of love, of compassion, of helping, of spiritual practices, of realization, everything. So this was this great saint. And the future, and his life will be read, his life will be inspiring for millions and millions of people in the future. There's no doubt about it. Because it's nothing is going to get wasted here. So may he continue to inspire us. When I first read about him, I was kind of stunned and then shaken inside. Because we understand these things, at what level these people had gone to. Amazing. So, Om, peace, peace, peace. Few announcements. Tomorrow we have Karma Yoga at a retreat, Tapovan at Arlington. Sunday we have here Mother's Children, as well as 10 a.m. Also talk on moral perfections with the yoga. Did Nag Mahashay ever initiate anyone? No, he never initiated anyone. He's saying, I will not take the role of a guru. The guru is, Holy Mother is there, Sri Ramakrishna is there, Swami Vivekananda is there. They are the gurus. So, okay. Anyone?
I'm curious, waiting the 12 hours, is that just in case, like, oops, he's back? Or what's that?
Yeah. Waiting 12 hours, is it normal? They say sometimes you've got to wait for even longer. But generally, there is always a lingering doubt in the minds of others that he might come down, because it was not infrequent that he used to go in samadhi, and towards the end he was constantly going and coming in samadhi. He was in samadhi and he should come down, again he used to go. So it's possible that again might come out. So they waited. So that was why did he not initiate anybody while some of the other? Oh, these other disciples, they are considered as world teachers. They are the ones who can initiate. The others, like people like us and all, kind of, we take their name and initiate. Though it's not recommended that ordinary mortals initiate. Only these divine people can initiate you. And if you have a direct command from God, or you have from your guru has told you, oh, you go ahead. So otherwise, like the blind leading the blind, both fall into a ditch. That's Upanishads. And he was humble, and he didn't want to take the role of a guru. Okay. Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Tat Sat Sri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu. The next household disciple we will be taking is Pratap Chandra Hazra. Now, this is a completely different character. He is more like us. No. This was a saint of the highest order, though householder, and see. So, Pratap Chandra was so that will be another kind of interesting life to study. Thank you.